Science-based heroes have always been a staple of the superhero genre. For every mad scientist making nightmarish creations, there were genius heroes seeking to make a brighter tomorrow through scientific advancement. While it's not a prerequisite, often genius science heroes trade in social skills for those big brains, with the threshold between eccentric smarty-pants and straight-up sociopath depending on the writer. While neither of these characters are brand new, or even unfamiliar to being adapted to other media, it is interesting how two major black tech heroes made their proper debuts around the same time of this year from the respective big two superhero houses. While Marvel's Ironheart dropped her own series on Disney Plus to generally positive reaction, which to be honest had less to do with its protagonist and everyone else in the show, depending on who you ask, DC's Mr. Terrific made his mainstream debut as a major supporting character in the DCU's Megahit Superman, with the sphere-obsessed hero landing himself a massive popularity boost and a spin-off project in the works. But what is it that endeared this cold ham member of the Justice Gang to so many, while Marvel's bad girl genius found herself struggling to connect with fans in spite of having an entire season to do so? Hey team, Phantom Skull, the super security VTuber here, and today we're looking at the DCU's Mr. Terrific and the MCU's Ironheart. Compare and contrast these genius black tech heroes to see why one resonated more with audiences than the other, and possibly allow me to sell you on the maligned silver medalist of this pair. DC versus Marvel. Classic Clash of the Titans. Also, life has kept me being unable to go see the new Fantastic Four movie, so sadly I had to think of something else for this week. Wait for me, Ben. Wait for me. Let's go over some important notes before we begin. Like my Lex video, there will be heavy unmarked spoilers for DCU Superman and Season 1 of Ironheart beyond this point, so last chance to click off. Also, like my Lex video, since Superman is still in theaters and Warner Brothers copyright bots aren't going to chill the fuck out about claiming trailer footage till it hits streaming probably, we'll be using fan art and clips from other properties for Mr. T's segments. Also, while I'm not going to have the rosiest opinions on Riri Williams aka Ironheart, I need to make it clear this isn't a dunk on the MCU video. If you saw my review of Season 1, you'll see I loved it and it only really had one weak point in its entire season. However, I sadly can't pretend that one weak point wasn't just how unlikable its protagonist was for viewers. And unlike every other female-led MCU character who was accused of this by the Great Unwashed, this was sadly the one time that accusation was true. But bear with me, as even with those issues, I have nice things to say about Riri. So let's start with introductions. Michael Holt is a genius inventor and CEO of LexCorp rival Holt Industries, who in his free time operates as the T-themed vigilante Mr. Terrific. Using his advanced T-spheres, an ergonomic jetpack chair, and other gadgets, he's a member of the Justice Gang, name pending. He's also an occasional ally of the Big Blue Boy Scout Superman, so when Soup's greatest hater, Lex Luthor, cons the government into turning against him, and plotting more sinister schemes, he teams up with Soup's reporter girlfriend Lois Lane to break him out and stop the mad genius's plot. Riri Williams is a teen genius haunted by the traumatic deaths of her stepdad and best friend in a stray drive-by. Bearing her pain into invention, she seeks to become the next Tony Stark and innovating the next generation of power armor tech. However, Riri is her own worst enemy, as her hustling and manipulative tendencies tend to get her in one messy situation after another. After getting kicked out of MIT, she hooks up with a local crime wizard to pull off heists to fund her suits. But when the realities of her choices finally hit her, she has to find a way out while confronting her unprocessed trauma with a sentient AI copy of her dead BFF. I think those introductions show a very noticeable difference between our super geniuses. While Mr. Terrific is a more traditional superhero in what can be seen as a reconstruction story that was a massive breath of fresh air after the bleak and messy DCEU, Riri is more of the morally gray protagonist of a crime drama that's in a superhero setting, but not specifically a superhero. Now, to be clear, I don't consider this a pro or con for either, but it's important to set the tone for both of their stories before we compare and contrast them. Mr. Terrific is a bit harder to gauge since he has far less screen time than Miss Williams, but it's easy to see why audiences endear themselves more to him over her. What we see of Mr. Terrific, he's a cold, pragmatic, but not heartless super genius. He admits he doesn't really like dealing with people's emotions, preferring people just get to the point and focus on the technical and practical side of things. When the Justice Gang joins Superman's fight with the kaiju monster, he's dismissive, but not mocking Superman's wish to try and defeat the beast without killing it. While he ultimately uses his T-spheres to kill the beast, it's only because it was an immediate threat to the city, and for no malicious reasons. When Superman airs his disappointment about killing it, he doesn't belittle Supes' opinion, but he does stand by that decision. Terrific's actor Eddie Gathegi gave a solid performance as a stoic, rough super genius, and clearly is having a lot more fun compared to the last time he played a superhero. The movie really showcases that while Supes and Terrific don't see eye to eye on everything, they still respect each other as heroes. So it's no surprise he's the first of the Justice Gang to side with Lois in helping Superman when everyone else turns on Big Blue, in spite of it meaning a potential fight with the US government. He also casually reveals he's put nanobot trackers in Supes' bloodstream in the event of needing to find him, which comes in handy when Lex captures him. Out of context, this does sound pretty sketch, but turns into a laugh when he casually reveals he does it to everybody. And I swear this is a reference to Justice League Unlimited, I just can't prove it. While he jokes about only doing it to piss off his co-worker Guy Gardner, it's clear despite his coldness, he has a very well-placed moral compass, breaking the stereotype of genius heroes being borderline sociopaths. Man, that's going to be ironic when we get to Riri. When he and Lois fight their way into Lex's interdimensional prison, by which I mean Terrific solos his Iron Man Goon Squad in one of the best action pieces in the movie, he is very pissed to find out that jackass, as he elegantly puts it, made a pocket dimension. He goes over how planet-ending levels of dangerous this kind of science is, and berates Luthor for being so egotistical he'd roll the dice on Earth's planetary stability to do such a thing. In many ways, he's a foil to Lex. Both are brilliant super geniuses, but Lex is a manipulative monster who only makes things to feed his own ego and spiteful obsession with destroying Superman, and Terrific invents to help make the world a better place, and also feed his own ego by proving that he can. But his is more about swagger over spite. Ultimately, despite Terrific's stoic and abrasive personality, he's got a big heart hiding behind that big, pragmatic brain. While he'll make hard choices he feels he needs to, he's always doing what he feels is the best course of action to save the day. Riri is a lot less noble, but this is by design. Season 1, Riri is a hot mess and borderline sociopath who should have spent more time in therapy than the workshop while she was at MIT. She spends all of Season 1 manipulating people into getting what she needs, and often plays down her actions until the consequences come a-knocking, and she's forced to get a dose of reality of how she's treated people. Now, I should specify that while I feel Riri suffers a bit from sociopathy, I should clarify I don't treat this like she's a monster, and is definitely not a psychopath as some people have claimed. The two terms often get misunderstood and mixed up in media. Now, I'm not a psych specialist, but I can use a bit of my media experience with how most mediums use the terms to explain it. But to keep the terminology as basic as possible, a psychopath is someone who has a complete lack of empathy, remorse, or conscience, but is very good at learning how to fake it. They're noted for being highly manipulative and prone to violence and sadism. Ironically, psychopathic tendencies are considered favorable qualities in the corporate and business world. If you need a topical example, our boy Lex, sole hope for humanity Luthor here fits the bill by a landslide. Sociopaths, on the other hand, are people who are emotionally stunted, having a disregard for social norms, laws, and the rights of others, struggle with blending into groups and social circles, and while capable of emotion and empathy, they are known to struggle to properly learn or understand it, and often have a very weak conscience for their own actions, but are not incapable of having one. Riri checks a lot of the boxes for a sociopath. She's coldly pragmatic and dismissive of others' feelings or needs, but not incapable of understanding them. It's just really hard for the bad girl genius. Not helping things is her own ego getting in the way of her self-reflection. She insists she has everything under control, even as the realities of her committing felonies for the Hood and how deeply she's inserted herself into his gang until it's too late come to light. And her carelessness ends up ruining the life of her ex-friend Zeke Stain, putting herself and her family in the crosshairs of a power-hungry crime wizard with a demonic sugar daddy, and putting Riri at risk of ending up in prison or a ditch. I think it's important to point out that Riri confronting this darker side of her is the main part of her character arc in Season 1. How well she actually learns that lesson by the end is up to interpretation, but when she's not making poor choices, she does show a softer side of her prickly personality, particularly to her AI Natalie and her love interest Xavier. Both in many ways ground her from going full-blown supervillain. But when she finally hits rock bottom and stops sending her mom's calls to voicemail, Mama Williams ends up being a critical part of Riri confronting her issues with pushing her grief and trauma into a little metal box. However, to say people didn't enjoy following a manipulative, borderline sociopath making bad choices all season would be an understatement. The main issue is Riri lacks a lot of charm. Now, to be clear again, that's not a knock on her actress Dominique Thorne. She gives a brilliant performance as an emotionally stunted, flawed protagonist. Her moments of snark are fun, and she gives a tragic performance when acting out Riri's PTSD episodes. But the issue is, frankly, the writing keeps going back and forth about Riri becoming a Walter White or a more traditional hero, but never sticking to either. Had they stuck strictly to making her a villain protagonist, I feel people would have less issues with her abrasive and manipulative personality. But because she's not intended to be the one who knocks, her choices and actions end up irritating some viewers, in my opinion. What's sad is, Marvel has made a likable but flawed super genius black girl before. If you watched my Ironheart review, oh, who am I kidding, it's very likely a lot of you didn't. So to save myself some oxygen repeating myself, roll the clip. When I was watching this and discussing it with my fellow superhero nerd pal No Limit 3020, who is an amazing streamer over on the Purple site, and you should totally go check them out, by the way, link below. They made a really great point about why Riri doesn't work completely that I wanted to share in this video. I keep comparing Riri to Moon Girl's animated series. They share a lot of similarities, but Moon Girl is a fun character to follow because she exhibits more personality of being a normal teenage girl who struggles with normal teenage girl things. Riri lacks the relatability by just being too cool for school, literally, a genius who looks down on others, and an inability to grow. It's not fun to follow her. They make a great point that the sadly cancelled Moon Girl is a better Riri. She's also an egotistical genius who makes dumb mistakes, but you see her positive traits and you want to see her succeed. Even if I get where they were going with her, I can understand why Miss Williams didn't endear herself to some viewers. I think that's the key difference between Mr. Terrific and Ironheart. Terrific is just more fun to follow. He has so much swagger, humorous quips, and is an enjoyable character in what little screen time he gets in Superman. When I saw the movie in theaters, the audience and myself had so much fun with his main fight scene when he protects Lois from Lex's Planet Watch goons. His indifference to the arrogant power-armored thugs as he and his T-Spheres give them the business, while jamming to No One the Where Was 5 Years Time, was just plain fun. And also a classic James Gunn set piece. Now, I do feel like it's unfair to completely compare them in feats on some levels. While they're both brilliant inventors, one is an adult and a professional superhero and owner of his own billion-dollar tech company, while the other is a broke, emotionally traumatized teenager who got kicked out of college. Riri was in much more desperate circumstances and is an emotionally immature teen who has a hard time contemplating the consequences of her actions until she's forced to. Her choice to work for the Hood to fund her suit is intended to be a poor choice, but other viewers have pointed out she did have options. The issue being she had too much pride and ego to sell herself and her designs to work under someone with money, like Stark Industries or the government. I do get what they were trying to say with Season 1 Riri, but I feel like a lot of it doesn't land well, and when you filter out the go woke, go broke dumbasses, people did have legitimate issues with Riri as a character. And it's also why Terrific ended up becoming a household name overnight with superhero moviegoers, and Ironheart has struggled to get folks to not meme on her and her poor choices in Season 1. Not all is lost for Miss Williams. In spite of her shortcomings as a protagonist, the show itself still endeared itself with fans for basically every other character in the show not named Jerry. And while Season 2 talks are still in the air, I do have hope Season 2 will give the bad girl genius more time to better endear herself to fans, now that she's seen the monster in the mirror and, on some levels, wants to be better than her past bad choices. However, until then, there was no contest. Mr. Terrific, with much less screen time, garnered a fandom that almost rivals Corn Sweat's Superman, and with talks of a spin-off in his future, things are looking very T-shaped for the DCU. While I personally enjoy both, the crown has to go to one of them, and Mr. T earned it and then some. Much like Corn Sweat's Soups and Hulk's Lex, Gaffigy's Terrific knocked it out of the park and has turned a niche hero into a household name with non-comics fans. And I can't wait to see more fair play in the DCU's future. Just don't critique his architecture skills. If you know, you know. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking out my video. If you liked it, I'd appreciate a like and a comment. What are your thoughts on Mr. Terrific and Ironheart? Did you agree or disagree with my takes? Which character resonated more with you? Be sure to subscribe for more super security VTuber fun and superhero yapping. I'm also on Patreon now if you'd like to more directly help the channel, since I never know when the copyright bots will strike. However, a simple like, comment, and sub would be appreciated as well. All support helps the channel grow. I'll hopefully be getting back to the Andor set of videos, but I've had Superman on the brain, so we'll see how things go next week. Thank you all again, and I'll catch you all later.